Today I'm joined by my sweet guest, Mike Liberty, and we see each other in a couple seconds after the intro.
Woo.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the David Project, the podcast for challengers about business branding and mindset. My name is, of course, Tim Westerhausen. I am a rebellious empath leading a resistance against conformity and sameness. And I'm sure the intelligent and perceptive audience that you are, you might have noticed something different today. And yes, you are, of course, right. I did, in fact, lose some weight. Thank you for noticing. No, I mean, obviously, bad jokes aside, that the episode today is in English. I'm yet again trying new things, leaving my comfort zone. And thus, I'm joined by my first international guest. I'm a bit nervous. Please welcome the devilishly handsome and almost unbearably likable Mike Liberty. Mike, welcome to the show.
Let's get things straight now. We added weight to the show because my weight's on the show. And B, handsome is different in the eyes of international countries. There's different levels of it. So, um, it's I think outside of just my girlfriend, I've been called handsome. So I really enjoyed the privilege of having it heard from you. It's very nice of you.
Welcome, welcome. I am, as I already said, I'm very nervous because obviously this is my first international English speaking podcast. This is always, as I said, like always a comfort leaving
Yeah,
thing,
let's
comfort
go in the
zone
unknown.
leaving thing. But that's what we do, right? We leave our comfort zone and see what happens, and we make ourselves vulnerable. There will be difficult words for me. I can't say that in advance, but it will be fine.
But you're doing
Mike,
fantastic. We spoke a couple of times prior to this podcast after some months, and immediately I saw how you somehow definitely went outside of your comfort zone before this podcast because your English is quite fluid and very, very good.
thank you
Um,
so much.
and it's not that it wasn't before. It's just you're pausing less. But even the best speakers in the world pause a lot, and that's something that I've learned. It's um, to accumulate your thoughts, the words you want to use. I think some one of the best superpowers you can have is language, and I think you're doing a great job in English. And pausing is normal, even if your English isn't your first language. Pausing is something that I'm still learning.
Yeah, I appreciate very much. Um, I know I'm not doing bad, like per se. I real, but in my head, I'm like, I know how it's supposed to sound like stuff like that, and I
Yeah, you
don't know.
have
I
goals,
I
maybe.
have a thing about it. It's a whole thing with me in
Yeah, no,
English,
it's
and
good, but I think we all battle. I don't know if I could say imposter syndrome or whatever, right? You're like, like I'm not there yet, and I'm not this, and how dare I do an English episode internationally? And at the end of the day, like, I don't know if I won't swear, but like, I don't like
no, no, go ahead, swear. This
screw
is a
that,
swearing
right? Like,
podcast.
screw all that, because you're better than the person that's fluid speaking English, not doing a podcast. You're doing it
Yeah, definitely,
right?
definitely.
So, but yeah, I didn't want to derail the podcast with your subjects, but I'm Mike, living here in a small town in Canada, an hour away from one of the biggest metropolitans in the country, which is Montreal. It's a French-speaking province. We got provinces here. The United States right underneath us is have states, right? Just to kind of give you kind of a geographical little lesson quickly. So that Quebec is the only French-speaking province in the whole country. So it's almost a country within a country when you cross the border. And I moved here about 5 years ago after I was born here decades ago. And yeah, just trying to create the life that I want. And so I work for this international company that's very small, that's 85 years old, called IKEA. I don't know if you heard of it. Um, so I accidentally started working for that company. I see some Besto or something going on
Yeah,
back there. There's that's another thing with IKEA people. We tend to just name things on movies and backgrounds of like, look it, that's a blah. Um, I also so yeah, I work for that company in fulfillment and logistics, and also periodically I do some speaking events for culture ambassadorship and really talking about why it's important and how it's key to, I think, any business's success, culture. And then I do some things on my own time, right? So I have properties that I like investing into. I like real estate. And I also have this little Patreon coaching group where I hold people accountable at the price of a Starbucks Frappuccino. So basically, for $5 a month, people get onto this group. We have weekly calls, and it's an accountability group of professionals that we can just kind of work together and get some goals done. So I saw there was a gap in the market for maybe a cohort where you weren't bogged down by um, information overload, right? I think information is great, but it could also paralyze a lot of people. So, and I've seen myself in that. So I kind of went, you know what? Let's just make an accountability group. And so I run that. It's called Rebels. And yeah, that's basically what I do with my day. Otherwise, I'm a family man. Got some, got some beautiful kids. Got another one on the way in the next couple weeks. And
Well,
that's
first
that.
of all, the most important part, congratulations on your new kid. New kid. Does that sound a little weird? I don't know.
Thanks, Tim.
But or the recent family edition, let's say it that way. Man, there's a lot
Yeah.
to unpack there. I'm still debating the entry point, so to speak, going the personal route because I'm very much interested in deep conversations and deep dives and all that. The other
Love it.
part is, of course, the everything in relation to business branding and mindset. I believe I would love to go the route of going more deep and having maybe the value in context of business and mindset maybe um, come along with it, basically. And for that reason, um, man, I almost forgot what I wanted to ask because when you introduced yourself, you were saying, yeah, you were saying like you are trying to build the life that you want. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. Um, It really goes down to I was doing it all wrong in the beginning of my life, and I say beginning as in my late teens to my to all of my most of my 20s. I'm in my early 30s now, um, and to answer your question, what does it mean to me? It comes with the learning of I had a checklist. I reached that checklist, and that checklist came from a broken home that I had, and I thought to myself, I wanted a better home. And then in your late teens to your early 20s, you're like, well, what's a better home? Well, I want the house, I want the golden retriever, I want the wife, I want the kid, I want the white picket fence, I want the new car, and I want a good job. So I had that as kind of a checklist. And at 24, 25, I had the house, I had the wife, I had the golden retriever, I had my daughter, I had the Jeep in the driveway, um, and I was unhappy. I was unhappy. And I'm like, why am I unhappy? Why am I feeling overworked? Why am I feeling even personally just miserable? I should be happy, and I'm not. And so that created a different why for me. I was like, okay, well, I'm doing it all wrong. So you got to look within yourself. What are your principles? What are your values? What are the things that fuel you? And it's not just monetary, right? Monetary is a need for everyone because we got to pay the bills and and take care of our families and take care of the financial output that money can give you. But outside of that, what are your principles? What are your things? So for me, I'm very much I had to reflect on that, and so now I'm creating my life based on those principles. And what are those principles? They're still being evaluated, right? Because we grow every day. But for me, I'm big on getting up in the morning because I want to for the things that are to come. So that's a big thing for me. So even with IKEA, I choose to work for that company because I enjoy working the tasks with the budgets with the goals that it has. So for me, if I'm working professionally for anyone, I want to make sure that it's fueling my education, um, so my learnings and my facilitative leadership, which is how I bring people together and go in that direction. So that's part of me wanting to create the life I want, to continue to grow on a personal and professional level. Um, I also want to travel, right? So that's a goal that I've put on that list. Why? Because yes, I had bought the house, I had the golden retriever, I had the daughter, I had the everything. Um, but I was also financially house poor. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to learn more about real estate, understand real estate leverage, understand, what real estate investing is outside of just being a homeowner. So I could go on for hours. What I'm getting at is the life that I want is predicated on the mistakes that I've done and reevaluating, okay, well, why was that a mistake? Why, hence a learning. And by doing that, I got closer to what happiness is for myself. And now I just pursue with this very fundamental question. Every day when I'm done, did this get closer to me, um, and my goals that I want? Secondly, did I enjoy doing it? Because it's not only about the end goal, right? When I say I want to do this and this is the life that I want, it's not that I'm trying to say, oh, well, I'll be happy then. Is it, am I happy along the journey? And am I happy with the destination that I'm going towards? Because we could all be excited about the sports car that we're driving, but if at the end of the road we're going off a cliff, then what's the point? Right? So I want to be in that car, and because of my values, it's maybe a Volkswagen bus with an electric engine in it because I like to be sustainable. And the destination maybe is a big party with friends and family, and that's the metaphor that I'll come up with right now. It's enjoy that journey, understand where you've been so you can understand where to turn. And when you get there, just celebrate whatever you've achieved, and do it again. Do it again with the learnings that you've had from the first journey. And so it's, you asked me one question and it became three answers, but
That's how it works.
that's the fundamental
That's how
truth I
it
have to
works.
say.
No, that's fine. I mean, um, I find it so interesting because you almost have to give so many answers because it's such a complex question to ask. You know, what makes you happy, or what does happiness mean for you, and how do you how are you able to succinctly condense it down to just one sentence, or just two, three sentences? It's just so many things that go into the factor of happiness, of, like you said yourself, like you had a broken home, and this means that the values that you have been taught were kind of different values, and one might argue wrong values compared to what you learned later on in life, and the values that you hold dear today and that you aspire to. And there's so many factors, like we had it before the recording, when you said something about um, whenever you try something like this podcast, and things just come flying towards you, and life is happening all around you at the same time,
Yeah.
professional, personal.
Yeah.
Like we have a 2-year-old daughter. She's oftentimes the cause of what childs are supposed to do, right? Like they are not controllable in this sense, if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
stuff is happening,
Absolutely.
things are going wrong, and
There's a
and
pure,
time is being
yeah.
consumed by it. uh, and it's such a difficult thing to like reevaluating your values. Like this is kind of what I mean. Like you have to reevaluate what you going towards all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
and
important to you?
see if you're still on the right road, and on the right track, working towards it. And what you do is exactly right. Like you, every day you just look at it, and you read about this all the time. If you are in that mindset, right, you read about it all the time to reflect on your day, to work out the positive things that happened, and the whole making a goal for yourself, breaking it down to small parts that you can daily achieve and stuff like that. So um, you you doing the right thing there. This is something that I admittably still struggle with, because I have like an idea in my head, but I still struggle on making it a concrete goal, like something that I can break down to. Like I know it in theory, but um, it takes again it's taking time. It's taking time to sit down, to reflect on that, to make sure you define goals that are exactly what you, because this is like setting your navigation, like a set nav, I believe it's called, like car beep beep boop, and you have um, pretty much a road ahead, and I don't remember the point I was making earlier.
And that's okay.
Okay, fair enough.
Is there?
Okay, you know what? We just start over. It's just
Yeah, sure.
technical difficulties. It happens.
It happens.
We were talking about values, about the whole road from holding old values that you have learned and have been taught basically by your parents, by maybe other family members, early, friends, whatever, and rewiring your brain in ways that you have new values that know are better, maybe
Yeah, that suit you better. Like it's
that suit you better and
yeah,
that suit your goal, and you are kind of like I heard the analogy about the sat nav and the navigation. Like some people just they have an idea about setting like what they want to achieve, but they never start the car or they never go to driving the actual road.
mm,
And that's kind of a difficult thing in it of itself, because um, constantly keeping you on track towards that goal takes so much effort and so much energy that in theory it's not difficult, like being successful, being rich, being famous, whatever. In theory it's not the way you want to go is very simple, but the actual doing it and the actual holding yourself accountable, um, constantly rechecking where you are right now and where you want to go, and if you're still on the same path,
yeah,
basically, that's the tough part, and that's where people fall off and where coaches and stuff like come in, because they are the ones holding others. Like you have your group holding others responsible. We have our pro group cohorts now that are structured in a similar way now,
yeah,
where we hold each other accountable, and not only saying like did you do that or that, but effectively you have to you know be accountable for your actions, for your goals. Did you achieve them, yes or no?
yeah,
And only if you really work on it, then you have a space in this community. Otherwise you might as well fumble around by yourself and not do anything.
yeah,
But it's tough, and that's why there's so much motivational quotes, so many coaches and speakers and all that shit, because
yeah.
that's the toughest of it all.
But what I love when you talk about motivation and stuff, and destination, like the destination could be good for the hard days, right? When you think of where you're going on the hard days, that can keep the flame alive.
Hmm.
Because even pursuing your passion, some people tend to not even mix it with their professional because it kills their passion because it's become now a
Hmm.
job, you know? Um,
True.
so, I actually hate's a big word, but I'm learning and I'm still reflecting actually about it. Um, on how we say, go pursue your passion, go pursue your passion. But a lot of the time, I don't know what the ratio or percentage, it depends, I guess, on demographics and everywhere in the world. But when you go and start tackling your passion and mixing it with professional, I have so many friends, including even personally myself, where it's now become a job and now it's not even a
Mm.
passionate thing for me because it wasn't very much the thing itself that I was passionate about. Maybe it was, you know, that meditative state of mind I had by doing that and not having to worry about a profit and loss sheet and getting output out and doing stuff. So I think, we were talking on the side prior to this podcast about, hey, we're doing this podcast just for the fun of it, right? And I think that's such a beautiful thing to say because if you just do this podcast without thinking about so much how many views you're getting or listens and how many this and how many that. Well, I think this podcast will just be that much better because you're doing it from a passionate place. The moment you start mixing the KPIs too much, because of course you want to maybe have a sponsor eventually so you can get paid and, invest that money into the podcast or a next project. I get that, but it's a very fine line and I'm still reflecting on that. And, so when I went back to the word hate and erase that, I think just do a bunch of stuff, even if you're not passionate about it, but you're interested. And that interest might become a passionate professional route. And I'll give you an example on a personal level. Logistics, fulfillment, those keywords, the things that, when we talk about trucks, when we talk about boats, when we talk about planes, bringing goods and services across the world, the logistics, not only was I now passionate about it, I just didn't know what it was. And one day, leaving the military, I needed a job, and I got a part-time job at IKEA. And they were like, Mike, we're going to hire you overnight on the logistics team. And I'm like, what the hell is logistics? What are you talking about? Like, what the hell is that? And I show up on my shift at 2 a.m., and I'm stocking boxes at 18 years old on shelves at IKEA. And I'm like, oh, well, that's it? That's logistics? And then you're learning, no, it's really about the coordination and the productivity and the efficiency of goods from A to B, A to C, and also bringing people together to get the job done, with leadership. And then as you grow into this thing that was supposed to be paying for the bills, you get promoted, and then you start traveling the world, and you understand there's this thing called a value chain, and that your table came from a tree, but then how were the trees grown, and is it in a sustainable way, and is it, how are you sourcing your raw material to get it to production and to production onto a forecast so you can spread it across the world. And so that was accidental, and that path wasn't planned, but it came from a need. It came from, yeah, let's just get the job done and get paid. But then eventually, oh, there's a culture here. There's some values. There's a destination, like being a logistical manager and traveling the world and being an expert in what you're doing. And I think that's cool. And that's to me the proof in the pudding, as we say, as an expression of just go and try things when you're stuck, and maybe your passions are not the answer to your professional success. Maybe it's you trying a lot of things and eventually mixing your passion. And that's what happened. When IKEA people see me, they're like, "You're logistics, Mike, and you're also culture ambassadorship." And that culture ambassadorship came from me documenting my logistical experience through video, through podcasting, through creating my e-learning solutions globally. So when Romania, Belgium, Australia would call me, they'd be like, Mike, how are you doing this? And then I would talk to them all through the values and through this. And then my passion started seeping into my professional as well. So I came back to my passions of media, of multimedia, of video production, of photography. That all came kind of like a transformer. It all came together. So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of just go try things and don't overthink it. That's really my rant there, if that answers some of those questions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, two things that I want to go at, and I'm firstly the passion versus the professional side. And I'm 100% on your side with this, like professionalism, if you can call it that, or making it a profession kills some of the passion somehow. And I noticed this is basically why I'm on this whole journey about self-discovery, even outside of my professional life, but especially in combination with my professional life. Man, during COVID, I had such a hard time rediscovering myself, what I'm here for, my purpose, this whole purpose discussion. And it blew my shit wide open. Like the whole idea of having a purpose and I don't know, this got me down such a difficult rabbit hole almost,
Yeah.
and it still kind of is. And I believe this is exactly what I want for people, like this: finding your passion, finding your purpose in life, personally, professionally, because most times both are intertwined.
Hmm.
And then also like putting the personal in brand, like
Hmm.
this whole idea of um, having as much of your of your personal quirks or
Yeah.
your personality essentially seep into your professional life, into your business, into whatever you do. Like have as little as possible of a disconnect between the two worlds,
Yeah.
because as much as you can bring your personality into your business, I believe, and my experience shows that as well, that the more happier you will become with going to work every day, because it's still a job. And that's where I'm closing the circle again. It's still a job. It's still, you might be passionate about it, and it might have started out as a hobby, but as soon as you make it professional, shit gets real quick. And then it starts, you lose the freedom of playing around, you lose the freedom of having no pressure at all. Like it just stops immediately. From one to another day, it stops completely. And then you have to manage the whole thing of keeping the fire alive, keeping um, everything on the path of going, for, uh, keeping the passion essentially,
Yep.
and keeping the passion along the way of also being as an business owner, entrepreneur, as they say, the cool kids today. Well, actually,
We're kids
you
anymore?
guys
What are you
have been
talking
saying it
about? I
forever,
thought we
but
were kids. No,
yeah, of course, in my heart,
yeah,
I
we're
am
big kids.
such a child
That's right.
sometimes.
That's right.
But yeah, so the whole passion thing, you have to keep it, and that's what I realized about my business as well, about my life essentially is I went into this whole graphic design and being creative thing like with such joy and ideas about like the typical, I want to do cool stuff with cool people, and be just a good designer and have like meaningful things. And the reality of it is business hits you hard quick and shows you there's a whole different side to it that you have to uh, you know take for real. Like you have to be not ignorant with it,
No.
and you have to suck up and be a man and or woman, and do the right thing, the business thing, even though it's not your thing. Essentially, it's not what you got into it for. You got into it for passion, for
Yeah.
creativity and stuff like that, but the one can't exist without the other. And so
Well, a passion.
that's a big thing.
What I love about what you said, so a passion is, in my eyes, is very much about fueling your soul, right? It's really about fueling your why and what you want to do. Business is about people. It's through people. So, um, I see a lot of, I've seen a lot of people go through burnout. Um, and whether it's identified or not, they're still in burnout. They don't even know it.
Mm.
I've been there a couple times with burnout because, yeah, good. Let's raise our hand, right? And for
Yeah.
people that say, well, I'm not burnt out, and you have all the symptoms, let's go Google burnout, and you'll see like there's a lot of symptoms there. I'm not the doctor, but burnout is to me the red flag of you not putting your oxygen mask right first before anyone else. And business, I almost feel like business to be good in that, you need to lead it through people. You need to create value for others. So it becomes everything but your passion, because your passion usually fuels a selfish need for yourself, right? And you need that to take care of oneself. You need to be able to take care of your glass being full before you could give others the water, right? Um, so when you create a business out of your passion, it's a very fragile and delicate thing, because you're going to have to provide value for others to get paid, whether it's a service or a product. So if you're using your passion, which usually feeds your soul for it, unfortunately, some people don't have the leadership skill set yet to know how to delegate responsibility, to know how to create a strategy that that takes care of themselves first while trying to pay the bills by providing values for others. And the problem now is that people are creating values for others at the expense of themselves, and it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. So you need to know, if you're going to go with the life support that you have, which is your passion, how are you going to continue making it your passion selfishly while at the same time providing that value for others? So one big thing, I see some creatives that are fantastic at being creative. They're so talented, some of the best in the world, and they never get a job. They never get known because they're so burnt out on the business side of things, how to crunch the numbers, how to be profitable, how to meet the deadlines, how to say no to contracts that are not so much paying the bills for them. Like they're big, they're better than that, right? But you take whatever you can because you don't know when the next contract comes. So it's a lot of fighting short and long-term strategy while taking care for yourself and also the client that's right in front of you that actually may be the wrong client because your messaging isn't you. It sucks. So it's chaos as you listen to me, right? It's a lot. And this is why there's, the future group, and this is why there's, amazing, cohorts and trainings like that outside in the world to take care of you. So, and I'm a huge ambassador for the future group. I've been in it, for a while, and, I can only say I'm not in it anymore, but I have to rejoin it eventually because I really value what, Chris and Annalie and the group is doing. It's just tremendous and amazing work that, is their output of value is bigger than the price tag, and it's beating conventional learning, right? Which is classroom, $100,000 a year learning. I think the future is going to be the innovative roadmap for the creative universities to follow, and also
definitely.
conventional universities and colleges to follow. It's the future, so literally in the name. So, so there's that, and then there's the IKEA price tag version, which is me at $5 a month. Because at the end of the day, like there's a price ladder. It's what's your budget today, and you might be the starving artist, and others can afford to get into that, and because the value is absolutely bigger than the price tag. So.
And it's also getting to a point to recognize the value, because I believe it's not always just the price tag because people don't have the money. It's because they don't see the value, because they are afraid of spending money, especially if they come from a scarcity mindset, like being in the feast and famine states and being a self-employed or freelancer, like talking about my my business here and my how do you say
Let's
it?
do it, Tim. Let's get vulnerable. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't give a shit. I say it how it is. That's my first episode, actually. Like I'm talking about the whole. It's unfortunately in German.
No, it's all good. I said I would have listened to it if I could get something to translate it for me. One day AI will do it for me. AI will eventually do it for me. Anyways,
we are there now.
Yeah, I think I could find an app. We'll get to that outside of the podcast. We'll find an AI converting language thing. But yeah, go on.
So essentially, like within my industry, creatives especially, and there's a lot of similarities between creatives and people like game developers or software developers. They all have kind of a similar mindset, especially if they are working creatively. And we struggle with so many things, especially in terms of business. And like the whole the future, shout out to the future, by the way, the future without an e.com, if you're a creative entrepreneur
Yeah, you got it
or something similar, then go check it out,
please. The future without an e, FUTUR.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I lost my train of thought. I killed myself here.
It's all good, man.
But yeah, essentially it's difficult. So if you working out of the scarcity mindset, this is what I was going for. Like the being in a mindset where you are most times people are good and get referred. And so you have the word of mouth thing, th. And then this is go good for you, great maybe even. In my case, it was absolutely the thing bringing me money. Like I had always had clients, but of course I also had some famine states, and I never sweated so much because I took the time to work on myself, on my on my own stuff basically. But still, you are not in a state of abundance of money basically. So you're getting by, you're doing all right, you're doing fine, but most times you don't have so much money that you don't care about 50, 100, 200 bucks, or even thousands of euros, dollars, what have you, to spend on self development. And you don't even get to the point of realizing, is that worth my money? And that's where I changed my mindset as well, like going into brand strategy, into the strategic parts of branding as a whole, like changing my complete outlook on what I can provide for my clients, on the value I can give. Like what I received coincidentally empowered me to do the same. Like, you know what I mean? Like what changed my mindset and what helped me
Right.
is the skills. I learned the skills to change
Yep.
the same thing for other people. Basically, it's so hard to explain, but
No, you're doing it great. It's really about getting paid for how you think, right?
exactly.
And because it's quite simple, like it's a lot easier. I worked in a P&L corporation profit and loss sheet for a long time. Um, even for multi-billion-dollar businesses like IKEA, there's a budget to respect. That's what makes a business a business. We're not just spending money to
Yeah.
spend money. Um, so whether you're the guy or gal that has a budget of $100 today, or you're the business that has $100 billion, I'm making up numbers. I don't know what's in the bank account, but it's really about. I'm losing my train of thought too. It's really about respecting the budget, but also so looking at mindset. So we can hire people that are specialists. Like
Mm.
specialists, there's like an Excel guy or gal out there. There's a graphic designer out there. There's every category of any profession. There's a specialist in that, and that's valuable. We need that. We need that professionally, and we need that across the world. But if you're able to problem solve, whether it's a brand strategy, whether it's a logistical strategy, whether it's I don't know, a wedding planning, right? That's a strategy. Like, eh, you know, I actually, let's go with that analogy. A wedding planner, a party planner, they don't actually go do the DJing for the night, put on the lights, do the, go build the chairs and the tables for the people for dinner, go in the kitchen. That person isn't doing all that work. That person is creating a strategy with the vision and mission of the client, right? And with that vision and mission of the client, they take that budget and then they delegate it to the best people they can possibly find to make that happen. That
Yeah.
if you can be strategic wherever you are in the world in what you do and get paid for that strategy and prove why people should pay you for that strategic thinking, you've
Mm.
won. And it doesn't have to be brand strategy. That's one of so many things. Project managers, same thing, right? Architectural firms, same thing, right? The architect doesn't do all the work. The architect, what's your mission and vision for the city here? What are you trying to build?
Yeah.
And that getting paid for your thinking is huge. And actually, to take it to an extreme, I've never said this out loud on publicly before, but I got headhunted for this job. So let's go for people that work for corporate, let's say, and not just self-employed. And I was like already employed. I'm happy. I'm like, I'll go for this interview. They're like, we can't tell you who the employer is. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I go through these interviews through Skype, through Zoom, and then eventually I go through the fourth and fifth interview where they fly me out to the headquarters. And this is the final interview in front of the president of the company. And they have a few questions. I'll get to the last one. But the first one was like, why should we hire you outside of everyone else? And my answer was, if I answer that saying that I'm your best person to solve all of your problems, then you're highly mistaken. I said, I'm not your best person because it's impossible to find the best person in 8 billion people. It's a needle in a haystack, right? But I said, what I can promise is I don't have most of the answers. What I do know is I find those answers through a strategic approach. And so those answers are laying into some people's heads as we speak. It could be your employee that's part-time. It could be a coffee away in New York City at some coffee shop that's not even employed in your company, and they got the answer. I said, so at the end of the day, you just need to define your problem very well, because some people think they know the problem, so they ask the wrong questions. And when you've built a rapport or a track record of asking the right questions and also analyzing what's the actual real problem with real questions, then you could get into strategy. Then you could get into problem solving, and that's your selling point. So I said that. I said, I'm not your best person. I'm just the best person maybe that your recruiting firm and the last people that interviewed me found, but I'm not your best person. Secondly, I also am not passionate so much about logistics, because it was for logistics world to run the country logistics strategy. So it was a big position. And I said, I'm actually not a logistics guy. I've worked in it for a decade. But I said, what I like is people. What I enjoy is finding the best people at what they do and making it happen. That's my favorite part of the job. And I got the offer, and they're like, we didn't hire you for your logistical knowledge. And I said, I hope not, because I don't have it all, especially not what the future needs. And they're like, well, we hired you for your thinking, your leadership. And that taught me a valuable lesson, and it was a great ego boost. We tend to say, put the ego at the door, and I'm really about humbleness and stuff, but I really want to share that story because it's not about what you do. It's about how and why you do it. It's to me, I'm very, very passionate about that. So yes. If you're very clear on why you're doing it and how you're doing it, they already have what they're doing. They don't need, yes, you can improve what they're doing, but you can't improve what they're doing unless you know why they're doing it. And are they following the mission properly, or their vision? Sorry, if their vision is this, we want to keep it sustainable, but they have coal running electricity. So we got to look at the how and the why, and then the what just happens. So, so getting a job professionally, or you're starting your own thing, or you're a freelancer, you got to be very clear on that. And then don't try to do the job of someone else. Delegate. Increase your budget and delegate.
And the funny thing is that, another thing, actually, we're still talking about IKEA.
I use that as an example because it's a decade of that. But yeah, IKEA,
Like the interview was with IKEA then?
Pardon?
The interview you just
No, it was, I am still working for the company IKEA, but I got headhunted by another company, and that was another company trying to poach me from IKEA. Right. So
got it.
Okay, and it's not to toot my own horn and say like, look at me, like
no.
It's to say when you're actually doing great thinking, like, and actually IKEA was a boot camp for me. It was like, here, Mike, 21 years old. Here's a large budget of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hire people and make it happen. And I'm like, I have no degree. I don't know why you're trusting me with so much money. But they're like, look, we got KPIs that are daily, weekly, monthly, and per year and tertially. And we're just going to see how you do. So we trust you. And here's here you go. Go do it. And I had imposter syndrome to a point where I ran to to the bookstore and I started buying a bunch of self-help books, how to do evaluations, how to read, key performance indicators, how da. So I started reading, I got overwhelmed. And that feeling, to your point of the beginning of the podcast about going in discomfort, going in the unknown, like that taught me a lot. That was my MBA. That was my
Mm.
education. And my God, I made some mistakes. Oh wow, I made some mistakes. But through those mistakes, if you have a supportive leadership above you that's helping you out to learn from those mistakes as much as possible to maximize the juicy learnings, you can do a lot for others, right? Whether it's IKEA or future companies or your own thing that you're doing, right?
Definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is what they always used to say, the big people talking about stuff like that is like fail often,
Fail
because you will
forward.
learn from mistakes and you should embrace them. And also, what's funny is, because you were saying like not only brand strategy but um, wedding planner or what have you. And I don't know who said it, like also some big person in branding, in the branding space,
Sure.
David C. Baker or
Yeah, I
some
love
person
that
like
guy.
that.
Yeah.
And he was saying something about, he had a house and he had to have his lawn mown. Jesus, I'm not sure if the
Good.
grammar
You're
is
doing
right
good.
here, but
Yeah.
and he had people come over, and he talked about how the third guy kind of started with asking questions like, why are you planning to redo your garden? What is it for? What does it need to accomplish? Stuff like that. And he gave him some pricing options, price bracketing, like small, middle, large option, stuff like that. And he went with a large option. It was way more expensive than what he planned to spend on it, but the guy had a good, um like, this is such a hard word, entrepreneurial
You did great. You just said it, man. Go for it.
um mindset.
Yeah.
So he had the same approach that like many people have, that go the strategic route and look at what value can we create, or what value do you seek to create or have created, however you want to put it. And that goes into so many things.
Yep.
um but that comes back to like you buying books, almost comes back to the point that was, we or the thing we were talking earlier about, like the scarcity mindset, seeing the value in buying stuff for yourself, self improvement. But on the flip side, also for buying like services like branding or law firms or stuff like that, like recognizing the value is a big part of it. Not only the part of having the money in the first place, but also having an idea and the understanding of what value will be created for the money that I put in. And is it like on the same level? Is it fair, or is it like out of whack in a negative sense, or am I getting a bargain here?
Yeah.
And this coming back to the future again, like there's so many small things that I have learned that, were like, I don't know, in the almost cents uh budget range, I would say, like just a sentence out of whatever. And like the value that isn't even in the same ballpark, like what it did for me and what I had to pay for it. So I can only encourage, to get to the point I'm making, I can only encourage each and everyone that is out there and thinking about like maybe investing in yourself, not only putting in time, but also money. Like put money on the table, like buy a book, start with a book, buy courses,
Yeah.
and maybe eventually you find a mentor, you find a coach. Why not invest in that as well? Like you will find, you will become better at recognizing the value people bring to you.
Yeah.
And what, like, there's a million, I get it, there's a million different options. You are overwhelmed, but you will find people that fit you and your style.
Yeah.
And you will have some some things might be more impactful than others, but all in all, you hardly ever can fail with investing money in yourself.
Yeah. No, my goal actually it's to kick people out of my own cohort at $5 and get them to do better things. And not to say mine's horrible. It's more I don't do everything for everyone. It's very specific to imposter syndrome. People just people that are even having a hard time to go shower. They're just like, I'm so overwhelmed, I can't even, and it's not about, and I exaggerate with the shower, but maybe not. Like, people have a hard time checking off things on their personal list outside of their job.
Mm.
So for me, it's like, once I see someone really killing it and I can't provide more value, I'll refer them to the Future or Annalie Hansen's cohort, like one of the two, right? Which are a higher ticket item for a good reason, right? So whether you're paying 75 or 250 a month, that's what those cohorts are that's what you're paying for today. But the value is so there. Now, if you're someone that can't commit to a video call weekly or monthly, and you're not sure, that's where I come in. It's $5. Let's see if you could show up. And if you could show up and tackle the things on your list with the bit of strategic approach that I bring to the table, and then eventually you're killing it and you're getting big clients, I'll be like, hey, you've outgrown me. You can maybe stay on for a bit, but like you need to diversify where you're getting your information, your strategy. Go to these two others that I really value and look up to. So it's really about, if you're paralyzed and you have excuses on why you can't do it, and a lot of the time it's the financial, then there's no excuse, because to your point, there's all walks of earth of cohorts out there. And to me, I want to be for the everyday person. The everyday person is the person that's maybe not a creative with $100,000 clients. It's maybe not the, like people that have that kind of money, right? But my dojo, I'll use this as karate or kung fu. Like, my dojo is the one that's the community one that the taxpayers are paying for, that you can go, like the community pool, come over. And then eventually when you become the competitive swimmer, then here's Annalie, here's Chris, go to them, go to their dojos, right? They got the Cobra Kai kind of swag to what you need, right? So for me, it's just, if I could convert people to go towards them, just like when I started out, I just needed that very affordable, no excuses, because I just don't see how you could have an excuse for mine. It's $5. Like, you can't go wrong. You could find $5 on the street almost, on the floor. So I once found a $20 bill. It's a story that's never worth talking about. I did return it.
10 euros recently.
You found $10. You got 2 months subscription right there. So to me, it's like,
there you go.
At the end of the day, like, that's my why, right? And I think IKEA definitely influenced me, because they have a $10 lac table that you can put together without tools, and everyone can have that table. It is cheaper than the dinner that you have on it.
True.
And I like that approach. And that's where, I think if we just start acting on our desires of growth, whether it's, I'm going to drink 2 glasses of water today instead of just 2 glasses of Coca-Cola, it could be that simple, and then that a year from now, compounded. Oh, I started with drinking more water. Now I've got 2 clients paying me for book covers, whatever, and it's really that. It doesn't have to be that much more, like, it doesn't have to be more complicated. And one value and principle I enjoy that I struggle with, and that's why it's one of my principles or values, is the value of simplicity. I, like, even this podcast, I know I've over-explained things, I could have explained it in 2 sentences, not 2 paragraphs. But that's why I put that in my repertoire. It's like, people get paralyzed on the complexity and the fanciness of a task or a strategy. It's like, just start doing, and then you'll pivot after.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. That's totally correct. And for by the way, you can't over explain in podcasts. That's what they are for. People sit here to listen. This is what they do. And
thanks for listening, everyone. If you're still on this podcast, listening to both Tim and I ranting about wonderful things that we see as personal and professional topics. But anyways.
Yep, very much so. Thank you guys for listening. And that's totally, I'm getting totally know what you're getting at. And again, I lost my train of thought.
It's all good, man.
Choo choo, everybody. Hop on the lost train of thought. What were you saying earlier?
Yeah, so it's really about just start doing is where I got to.
Yeah,
Just
again,
start doing.
exactly. Now I'm back. Okay, hello, brain. Nice to meet you. Um, exactly. The most important part also for me was to just get going. And I mean, this has been talked about, and people like the whole just do it thing. I mean, this isn't news to anybody, right? But I'm once again one more drop in the bucket of just do it. And I'm just saying, like, start small, just start. It doesn't matter how it looks, it doesn't matter how good it is. It just is important to start and get the time under your belt, basically. Like, just put in the work and show up every time you set yourself to show up. Like, for me, it's the podcast, like recently, and to do it every week. And it's taken up a lot of time. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's tough, especially for a like kind of a one-man show almost. Like, granted, we are two people and we are freelancers and all that, but in that context, it doesn't matter because actually my mind is like through my mind racing are a billion things. And then on top of that, I have to sit down. Like, I talked to Mike earlier and said, like, I'm almost struggled to get here in time because stuff with my car went wrong. And now I have to make another appointment to get it fixed again. Like, I'm driving back and forth to the car shop to get just my car fixed. And that's not even like I'm investing time in nothing here. I'm just wasting time for stuff that isn't even my fault. But that's just how life goes, right? That's just what we have to deal with. And on top of all of that, besides the personal and professional things that go on, you have to hold yourself accountable to goals that you set. And for me, it's the podcast. Every week I have to do a podcast. And granted, I'm still a bit like not on point with the release date, but somewhere around Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is fine
But
for
you're
me.
within the week, and that's great, right? You've got to.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
I'm within the week. Technically,
Yeah.
I could
You're
release
not
on Friday
within
and still be good.
the year or the 3 months, right? So you're on track, right? So it's
I'm on track, and I'm proud of that because it's hard, and I'm putting a lot of time into it, and I know it. It might not even show for the next foreseeable future. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't get any returns probably, yeah, because I'm still doing things wrong, and I'm still maybe not connecting to my audience and what have you, other things. But still, you have to try. You have to do it. You have to show up. You have to at least try and see how can I pivot from this point, like you said, like pivot. And this is always an option. Like, just do something. If you before you don't do anything and get decision paralysis, and like I have a lot of the time, before you do that, just do anything, and essentially either fail and learn, or you by accident stumble across a path that is perfect for you and you just keep going. And no matter what you do, you will still come out better than before, I would say.
yeah. Yeah. I think if you're really innovating and pushing yourself, you're fucking up a lot. If you're not
That's
fucking
true.
up at least weekly, you're not growing.
Yep. Embrace the failure.
Embrace it.
That's like, I don't know, this is such a big part, and still such a, for instance, I had a how do you call it, like a call, Jesus, like hiring conversation, like how do you
Yeah, like an
say
interview.
an interview?
Yeah.
That's the hard word that I
No, do it. Go for it. Keep going.
an interview for an apprenticeship in my very, very, very early days.
Yeah.
It was no, it wasn't for apprenticeship. It was after my apprenticeship, and I interviewed for like working as a graphic designer in a agency of in any kind of shape or form. And there was this one guy interviewing me, and he goes like, "Did you ever have you had any mistakes ever?" And I'm like, of course I did. Like, what do you mean? I'm coming fresh from my apprenticeship. Like, I did a ton of mistakes. Like, I'm learning. What do you mean? And I was like baffled of why he's asking me if I did any. I'm like, sure, I kind of fucked up print. I don't know, any PDF exports for printing, and I did the wrong color management, whatever the fuck there's to do wrong. I still do it wrong to this day sometimes. Um, and I was so baffled by this question. And he goes like, you know what? You're the first person to admit to have made mistakes.
Oh, I'm sure they were blown away.
And I'm like, what? Are you serious? Like, people actually tell you they never did any mistakes? Like, I was flabbergasted, as they say. Like, it was mind-blowing to me. And I lost you. All right, fam. It seems like we lost Mike Liberty to whatever happened. I'm hoping he's okay. I'm hoping it's nothing serious. But it seems like he's not coming back. He doesn't respond to Instagram messages either. So I'm guessing either an outage of some sort, or his Canadian home got hit by a sudden blizzard or any animals. I'm hoping he's not getting dragged out of his home or something like that. I would say, like, I'm not sure if and when he's gonna be back. I'm gonna say, like, we end the podcast right here, right now, and have a part 2 with him in the near future, I would say. For the time being, thank you so much for listening. I hope everything was still, watchable and okay to listen to, and everything. Like, everything was to your satisfaction, so to speak. I'm very, very flattered for everybody tuning in and staying to the end. And, if you want to do me some more favors, like, first and foremost, let me know how you like the English episode, the international guest. If you want to see more of that in the future, like different people, and having it mix up with some international guests as well. And if you can basically bear me speaking English. And for now, thank you so much. I'm gonna end it here. Do the whole social media thing of liking and subscribing is the word I'm looking for. And yeah, see you on the next one. Peace.